Long-distance hikers came off the Continental Divide Trail right at the crossing. It was a good place to camp, collect mail, restock supplies from socks to water purification kits. That's when she first got to know Sully. She had looked around in June and moved to Timberlake the next month. She might have missed the spring explosion of wildflowers, but she was in awe of the changing leaves in fall and heard the elk bugle, grunt, and squeak in the woods. It took her about 5 minutes to fall in love. "What have you done?" her Aunt Helen had said when she visited the town and saw the clinic. She and her aunt lived in a suburb of Chicago, and Lee's move was a very big step. She was looking for a change. She'd been working very long hours in a busy urban emergency room and saw patients in a small family practice as well. She needed a slower pace. Aunt Helen wasn't a small-town kind of woman, though she was getting sick of Midwestern winters. They were the only family either of them had. Leaving Helen had been so hard. Lee had grown up, gone to college and medical school, and had done her residency in Chicago. Although Helen traveled quite a bit, leaving Lee on her own for weeks or more at a time, Lee was married to the hospital and had still lived in the house she grew up in. But Lee was 34 years old and still living with her aunt, the aunt who had been like a mother to her. She thought it was, in a way, disgraceful. She was a bit embarrassed by what must appear as her dependence. She decided it was time to be an adult and move on. She shook herself out of her memories. "Such a gorgeous day," she said to Sully. "Nobody camping yet?" "It'll start up pretty soon," he said. "Spring break brings the first bunch, but until the weather is predictably warm and dry, it ain't so busy. This is when I do my spring cleaning around the grounds, getting ready for summer." "What do you hear from Chicago?" "They're having a snowstorm. My aunt says she hopes it's the last one." Sully grunted. "If we'd have a snowstorm, I wouldn't have to clean out the gutters or paint the picnic tables." "You ever get a snowstorm this late in the year? Because I thought that was a Midwestern trick." "It's happened a time or two. Not lately. How is your aunt? Why hasn't anyone met her yet?" "She made a couple of very quick trips last fall. I wasn't very good about introducing her around. Besides patients, I didn't really know a lot of people yet. She's planning to come here this spring, once she finishes her book, and this time she'll stay a while." Lee laughed and took another bite of her sandwich. "That won't cause her to leave the laptop at home. She's always working on something." "She always been a writer?" he asked. "No. When I was growing up, she was a teacher. Then she was a teacher and a writer. Then she was a retired teacher and full-time writer. But after I finished med school, she grew wings. She's been traveling. She's always loved to travel, but the last few years it's been more frequent. Sometimes she takes me with her. She's had some wonderful trips and cruises. Seems like she's been almost everywhere by now." "Egypt?" Sully asked. "Yep. China, Morocco, Italy, many other places. And the last few winters, she's gone someplace warm for at least a couple of months. She always works, though. A lot." "What kind of books?" Lee grinned. "Mysteries. Want me to get you one? You have any aspirations to write the tales of Sullivan's Crossing?" "Girl, I have trouble writing my own name." "I'll get you one of her books. It's okay if it's not your thing." "She been married?" "No, never married. But that could be a matter of family complications. My mother wasn't married when I was born, and the only person she had to help her was her big sister Helen. Then my mother died. I was only 4. That left poor Aunt Helen with a child to raise alone. A working woman with a child. Where was she going to find a guy with all that going on?" Sully was quiet for a moment. "That's a good woman. Loses her sister and takes on her niece. A good woman. You must miss her a lot." "Sure, but..." She stopped there. They had been together for 34 years, but they ran in different circles. We never spent all our time together. There were plenty of separations, with my education and her travel. We shared a house, but we're independent. Aunt Helen has friends all over the world, and writers are always going to some conference or other.